Have you ever told yourself, man, I'm just bad with money? Or maybe once I make more, I'll finally get my finances together. Here's the thing. Those aren't just thoughts. They're stories. And those stories, they're shaping your life.
Yeah, and in today's episode, we're not just talking about budgeting and investing. No, we're talking about the mental junk drawer of beliefs that keep you anxious, broke, and stuck. Because most people aren't actually failing with money. They're just living out money lies nobody ever challenged.
And in this episode, we're pulling back the curtain on the 5 most common and most dangerous money lies we tell ourselves. These aren't just myths. These are invisible scripts running the show behind our financial choices.
And here's the deal. If you don't rewrite these stories, they're going to write your future. So whether you're just getting started on your journey, maybe you're brand new, whether you're deep in debt or halfway on your way to 5, today's episode is perfect for you.
And this one might hit closer to home, but we promise it's the kind of honesty that will set you free. This is the Fi Guys. Let's dive in. In today's episode, we want to have a real talk, not just about debt payoff strategies or saving hacks, but about stories that we carry about our money. And today we're going to be giving some personal anecdotes, like how I grew up thinking that money was for other people, and how Dominic believed that hustle was the only way out. So today we're going to be breaking down the top 5 money lies people tell themselves. First, we'll be introducing the lie. We'll be exploring where it comes from society, childhood, culture, maybe even trauma, breaking it down with real examples. And we're going to offer a reframe or better beliefs. So Dominic, before we jump into that, do you have any questions, concerns, or anything that you want to bring up?
You know, one thing I want to say before we get started is if you guys have any money lies that immediately come to mind, you're like, you click the video, you're like, oh, I have like 1 or 2 money lies. Drop them in the comments right now. We'd love to see how many of them match up with what we're going to say today. And it gives an idea for more people to really join in the conversation about becoming more self-aware when it comes to these reprogramming, kind of algorithms that we were taught all our lives. So feel free to drop them in the comments down below. But I'm excited to dive real deep into this one because let me tell you, the subconscious and these money lies that we don't even question are ruling our lives without us even knowing. So let's start breaking some chains mentally and let's get right into it.
Perfect. So money lie number 1, and this one's a big one. I'm sure you've heard it every single time that you go out and someone makes a dumb choice, or even just a choice that wasn't even dumb. It was just a choice. And that is, I'm just bad with money.
Yeah, I hear that a lot, actually, especially on social media. Oftentimes you'll hear like, I'm just a girl, I'm just a boy, I'm new to this. It's like, unfortunately, money and the world doesn't care about your gender in regards to the money, doesn't care about how experienced or unexperienced you are. It's so important that here in our life that we take ownership and accountability of the things we know and the things we don't know. And that's why some of these are going to be very frustrating, right? Because they're avoidable. In fact, Chris, would you say that all of the money lies in here are avoidable in one way or another?
Avoidable in what way? Like avoidable from learning them and hearing them, or avoidable and just being like, oh, I'm not going to believe that?
Yeah. So like when I say, well, Chris, I'm just bad with money. It's like, well, have you picked up a book? Have you listened to the Fi Guys podcast? Have you dove deep into the Fi Crash course that's going to be recreated very soon here? There's a lot of wonderful, a quick plug. I got to plug the Fi Crash course. But I feel like everything in life usually can be solved in one way or another. Most things. I'm just bad with money it's just a negligent excuse that only you are going to bear the consequences of, and you're not going to reap those rewards of being great with money.
Yeah, and I think that's the scariest thing, the most pernicious thing about all of these, and that's the reason we wanted to bring it up, is that these things that we assume are just true, and you don't even question the thing that you think is true, those are the things you're going to get stuck in for the rest of your life. I've read this book by Noah Harari. He's the person that wrote the book Sapiens, Homo Deus, and now he wrote his newest book. It's called Nexus, and it's all about information systems and what is truth. And in it, he talks about objective truth, subjective truth, and intersubjective truth. And then I'll add a 4th one that he doesn't really talk about. I call it divine truth, or the logos. But what he talks about is that a lot of people, subjective truth is what is true to me. What is true to me is that I'm bad with money. It's not an objective truth. It's not an intersubjective truth. No one really cares about it. But if I believe subjectively that I'm bad with money and no one challenges me on it, then I'm going to go my entire life never trying to pick up a book, never trying to listen to a podcast, because I get to just have this mental out automatically by telling myself I'm bad with money. And I find that it often results in shame and a lack of education, but not capability to learn.
While you were speaking there, a thought kind of came into my mind. And, this is one of those thoughts that I've had to break multiple times throughout my life, and it's in regards to I'm just bad with money. Oftentimes, we think that because, oh man, I'm bad with money. Well, everyone's bad at money. Everyone's bad with money, And maybe that's a thought process you guys have, right? Well, I'm not good at this, so everybody else is not good at this too, right? I'm struggling in math. Everybody is struggling in math, right? There's nothing wrong with the struggle. In fact, here at the Five Guys, we embrace the struggle. We love the struggle for what it will make of you, right? But I don't want you to have the mindset that, well, everybody's bad with money, so it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's like life is not going to give you a pass, and you're going to feel left behind. And it's always better to deal with your problems head on than to bury your head in the sand. So I just wanted to go for it. You have a thought, Chris?
I think about, when I was coaching jiu-jitsu, and one time I had this white belt who I was rolling with, and I'm a purple belt, which doesn't really mean anything, but I'm a purple belt. And he was talking to me. That means I've been doing it he's like, man, I just wish I was naturally good at this like you are. And he was day one. And I was like, man, I was not naturally good at this. Like, that's the thing about jiu-jitsu. That's the thing about going into a gym. That's the thing about like all of these things is you come into this world as a baby, not knowing how to do literally anything. You can't walk, you can't talk, you can't even eat. You are dependent on your mother and your father for a good amount of time before you can do anything. And it's the exact same thing with money, exact same thing with jiu-jitsu. If you want to get better, you have to show up, you have to learn. Maybe, just maybe, instead of going through life saying, I'm just bad with money, we need to reframe that and say, maybe I haven't had the right support or guidance yet, but I can learn. Because if you give yourself the identity of the learner rather than the knower, you have the ability to actually change. But if you go through life saying, I know everything, and this is what I know, and this is what I don't know, and I can't grow, then what's the point of life? You're just going to go stuck inside the same patterns, the same fixed things, going through the same BS over and over and over again because you are unwilling to challenge yourself, to realize that maybe the things you believed were wrong. And that's okay. That's part of growth.
Yeah, it's so important to be a student of life, not just when you're in high school or college or, in the first half, but really the key to, and what do I know, right? But the key to staying young is to always continue learning. The mind is a muscle just like anything else. And if you don't use it, you lose it, right? So I love that. So that was number one. I'm just bad with money. That is a money lie that we need to get away from. Let's move on to number two. Chris, what do we got?
Number two, money lie. I'm sure you've heard this one. I hear it all the time as a financial consultant, as a financial coach, as a financial advisor. Chris, I'll save more or I'll invest when I make more. There's always that magical time down the road. And, I always love this quote from, I believe it was Seneca who said this one. The one thing that all fools have in common is they're just getting ready to start.
Oh, gosh, that hurts. That hurts. And I know that hurts our listener as well. That is that's such a powerful quote right there. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think we, again, just had to retrain my brain because what I was going to say is I think we've all been there, right? Which maybe we have, maybe we haven't, right? It all depends on how we were raised with different money principles. I know me personally, I've been in that place. I've definitely been in that place, right? But from this podcast and from the numerous things I've learned and listened to and really putting myself in the fire and understanding, I've come to say that, yeah, it's just better to start now. Just start now, guys. Even if you're not making a lot, save a little. And that adds up in a big way. But I feel like this goes a little bit deeper, doesn't it, Chris?
I think this is one of the deepest ones that we have here. There is, in all propensities, that I will start when this happens, when everything is aligned, then I can start. In actuality, if you really break it down, it's an excuse. It's an excuse to not go where you want to go. It's an excuse to stay in the known, because our brains, they're a 10,000-year-old machine in this modern day body. Our brain is not here to keep us happy. It's to keep us alive right now. And your brain knows that the shit that you sit in, the stuff that you say, I hate, I want this to be different, I wish this was different in some way, shape, or form, it is safe. It is not safe in that you feel good. It's not safe in that you are in a safe place, but it is safe in that you are alive. And your brain doesn't know what's on that other side of the hill. So if I was to go and I was to make a change, if I was to start to save money, if I was to go to the gym, if I was to walk into a jiu-jitsu arena and start to learn these things, who knows what might happen? I might die. But I know right here, maybe disappointed, maybe sad, avoidant, I am okay. So that's why you always say, I'll start when this other thing happens. When everything else is perfect, then I'll start. Guess what? In life, things will never be perfect, because there's always something that you can look to and be like, oh, that could be better. That can be better. That can be better. You could be on the perfect paradise beach. Everything looks great. And there's a piece of bird poop on the side of you. Not perfect. So it all depends on what you want to see. And if you want to see that it's perfect enough to get started, it is always perfect enough to get started and to at least start to work that muscle.
100%. You got to start when you're not ready. You got to start when the fear is there. You got to start when you have the idea. Like Chris said, there's just no perfect time. And I think you know this. And if you already know this, well, you just have to implement it. It's a damn shame when we know what to do and we still don't do it. So let's try and rewrite ourselves, because how we do anything is how we do everything. So let's do everything to the best of our ability. That being said, what's number 3, Chris?
Before we do that, I want to rewrite that one for people. So I think you said it. Start messy, start often. Just get started. And then also tell yourself, if I can't imagine, or if I can't manage $100, I won't be able to manage $100,000. Too many of us think, oh, if I just had more money, that would fix the problem. But you can take a kid out of the hood, but you can't take a hood out of the kid. It takes time to build these things up. You think if you just took somebody who never had any money and gave them $1 million, that a good thing's going to happen? Well, luckily we have that result. You can look at lottery winners and what happens to them. Majority of them end up even more broke than they were before they won the lottery. Many of them end up dead. There are very, very few who end up in a better situation. And those ones who did often had money, played the game just for funsies and won, and were like, oh, cool. And they just invested it and kept their life going. It's people that don't have money that get it, and then they destroy their lives. So with that, I'd like to move on to number 3. This one's a big one that I also hear when I work with some of my older clients, but even younger clients from like our 5 Friday feedback. It's too late for me to get started. What do you think about that one?
That breaks my heart a little bit. That breaks my heart a little bit, because a lot of people base that question, that answer, on society, right? They're basing it off what they've seen in other people or what they're expected. But it's not often, it's not like they're really looking internally. Now, I'm in the mindset, and I don't think this is always true, but this is just who I am, the optimist, right? That it's never too late. We can always win. I'm the type of guy, if my team's down by 10 points, right, and there's 30 seconds left, I'm watching the last 30 seconds. I'm like, man, if they get a 3-pointer, and then like if they foul on the 3-pointer, that's 4. You know, it's 6 to go, double 3. Then like I'm that kind of guy. Sometimes it's annoying because, you know, people just want to shut off the TV and walk the other room. But I'm the type of person that I don't believe it's ever too late. And I know a lot of people in my generation, I know in our notes, right, it says people in their 40s or 50s sometimes saying, man, it's too late for me. It's like, Chris, I hear that in my day-to-day. I hear that for people in my 20s. Like, man, it's like, I'm cooked, as they say. I'm finished. It's over. You know, housing prices, I can't get a great job. It's all these different things. I'm behind the 8 ball. And that's a victim mentality from my generation, from what I hear. And what I've learned from this podcast, and this is what I love, because while this is a finance channel, financial independence, right? We go so much deeper than that. What I've learned from this podcast is one of the things that you can't be a victim, right? We know that there's 4 different, ways to think about it. You can be the hero, you can be the villain, you can be the guide, and you can be the victim. Am I correct in that? Those are the 4?
Yeah, those are the 4, but typically you can't guide yourself. You need someone to be a guide to you. So you can only really be 3, victim, hero, or villain.
And most people play the victim, and not enough people are playing the hero. And I think it's so important to take control of your life and be the hero of your own story, and to remind yourself that you are powerful. I mean, you clicked on a great episode, not to toot my own horn, right? But you're showing intention that this is the direction that you want to go in. And you're taking the reins, you're taking control of your life. And I love to see that. It's inspiring to us. And I hope that you're inspired by what we do here as well. Chris, I'm going to pass it back to you. How can we reframe this one?
I think there's a lot of people who hear financial independence in their 40s and their 50s, maybe even their 20s and their 30s. And the automatic thing that comes to their brain is some tech bro out of San Francisco or out of LA who, came right out of college, created some app that makes $1 million a day. And then they were like, oh, what I'm gonna do is keep my expenses down and I'm gonna retire early. And like, that's the story they have. Like, this person found it when they were 18 years old. It took them a year and then they were done. That can't be the case, because it isn't the case from my experience of dealing with so many people on this path of financial independence, people that I've dealt with in their 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s, who are able to pull it out pretty darn fast, depending on how much work they want to put into it. So maybe we can reframe this from it's too late for me to, yeah, the best time was to start yesterday. The best time was to start 10 years ago. And the best next time is right freaking now. There's that old quote. If you want to plant a tree, the best time was 10 years ago. And the next best time is right now. So we don't have access to the past. We don't have access to the future. We only have access to right freaking now. So if you want to be better, you need to choose to be better right now. And maybe in a month, maybe in a week, maybe, hey, in the next moment, you decide, I don't want to be better again. At least for that one moment, you were doing it. And it's like going into that pain cave as you go deeper and deeper, when you're running, when you're working out, when you're doing jujitsu, when you're doing anything that is hard, you're going to get to that moment that you think, I can't go any further. I'm done. I'm tapped out. I can't think of times where I've run half marathons, where I've, done long rolls with people where you're just going grind matches, they call them, over and over and over again for like 20, 30 minutes. And you think, man, I can't go another minute. And then 5 minutes later, you look back, you're like, okay, I made it 5 minutes. And what that tells you is that when your brain told you, I can't go any further, you weren't even 40% of the way there. You have so much to go, but you need to start.
I love that. I love that. Anytime you're referencing a Goggins quote, I'm all for that. Yeah. When you're 40% of the way there, and you feel like you're done, you're really only 40%. Like, you got another 60% in the tank. And it's interesting that you say that. Last night I was at the gym rather late, I mind you, because that's when nobody goes, and I love that. And I was doing shoulder presses. I was like, man, I'm gassed. I'm done. Gave it, like you said, gave it a few minutes. Like, well, you know what? Actually, my shoulders aren't actually gassed. I could do another set. Threw it up there, repped it out hard. Huh. And it makes you wonder. I don't say that just to gloat or anything like that. I say that to question, it's like, how much are we leaving on the table? How much are we leaving in the tank? And, I sat there. I was like, man, my shoulders aren't growing as much as I'd want them to grow. And I was like, maybe they're not growing because I'm truly not emptying the tank enough. Where my mind says I've done enough, but really I haven't done enough. And I think sometimes in life, in order to get what we want, we have to do a disgusting amount of volume, right? But we cut ourselves short because of maybe laziness, maybe perception, who knows? But I think it's important to always pay attention to the little things in life. It's never too late to grow bigger shoulders, I hope. It's never too late to reach financial independence. It's never too late to continue to grow. Maybe you stopped being a learner in high school. And maybe this is the first video you've seen about kind of just learning anything new in a long time. Well, we invite you to continue that journey. We implore you to keep going. The one who learns is the one who stays alive. So let's keep living. Let's keep having a good one. And let's get on to number 4. What could that one be, Chris?
Number 4 is a big one that people have heard throughout all of history. Money is evil, or wanting more makes you a greedy person or a bad person. I find that this one is rooted in cultures and religious upbringings. So it's really tough to get past because it's something that's told from the get-go, from the jump, as it were. And now people are stuck in this, and it's so hard for people to get out of it. I find people who I've coached through who are trying to be entrepreneurs, trying to grow their business, and something keeps holding them back. And as you explore it, it's because they believe that they're unworthy of having the money. Not because they're unworthy of having the money just because they haven't tried hard enough, but because if they get it, it'll make them a bad person. Because maybe grandma or grandpa at one point said, you know what, money is the root of all evil because someone screwed them out of a business deal. If you go back long enough in your history, everything makes sense, even though you don't remember it. Your unconscious is holding on to so many types of different things back then.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, rooting it coming from religion. Because my perception is always like, well, God wants us to be prosperous, right? He said, go and multiply and cover the earth, right? Go and be prosperous, right? And there's nothing wrong with money, but there's a lot of things we do with money that are wrong, right? We purchase sin, we do we do gambling, it's a lot of not great stuff, right? We fund wars, not ideal, not great. And you might think, well, I'm just a humble little citizen. I'm not funding wars. I'm not going to the club. But I think it's smaller than that, right? It doesn't have to be so big. Oftentimes we feel like wanting more and greed is it's like a really bad thing. And I don't disagree. Being greedy is not a great thing. It's a pretty bad thing. But I think it's important for people to understand that money is just a tool. It's not something that you should lust over. It's not something you should obsess over. Ironically, we have a financial podcast. I get that. I see the irony, right? I get it. But money is just a tool. It's no different than a hammer. It's no different than anything else, right? A hammer can be used to build a beautiful home, right? Where your family can live in. It can also be used to kill that family, right? So it's, listen, I gotta give two sides of the coin. So a hammer can be good, a hammer can be bad, right? Not really. It's just a hammer. But what you do with it makes you who you are. If I build a house, I'm a carpenter. I kill my family, I'm a murderer, no doubt. And it's not the hammer's fault. Same with money, right? You can do good with it. You can do bad with it. It's just make sure to use it in a positive way. Make sure to use it in a good way. And I don't know, Chris, what else do you have to say on the fact that people say money is evil?
Man, I think you just took that and ran with it. Like, I have nothing to add. The only thing I'm going to add to that is let's just add our reframe. And I loved how you brought up money as a tool, because if we reframe it from money is evil or wanting more money makes me a greedy or a bad person to money is a tool. It reveals who I am, not who I am not. So money is a tool. It reveals who you are, not who you aren't. It has that ability. So if you think that if I get money, I'll become a bad person, no. If you were a bad person and you got money, yeah, you're going to be a bad person. All it does is amplifies who you were going to be, but it doesn't shape you to become a new person. So let's move on to lie number 5. This is one that I grew up with. This is one that I still have to fight with. People like me don't get rich. And then this is where it becomes part of your identity. It's a part of my culture. It's a part of the color of my skin, that I have tattoos, the way that I talk, the way that I speak. All of these things are the things that hold me back because people like me don't get rich. That's for other people to do. And that's something that's hard to break culturally, but it's the most important thing that we have to break ourselves. Because I've heard stories of people, young men that I've met who say, my mom told me that the world doesn't want me to succeed. And I understand that from the mother's perspective. Maybe the mother was trying to protect their son, say, hey, if you're going to struggle in life, people don't want you to succeed. The reason you're not succeeding is because they don't want you to succeed. But can you think of a more disempowering thing to tell somebody as a young man or as a young woman? The world is going to try to stop you. Yes, that is true. And it is up to you to become so good that they can't stop you. But if you have that belief in your head that people are just going to hold me back, I can't get any better, then you're never going to try. Because in life, you're going to come up against obstacles. You're going to come up against things that are going to suck. And if you believe that you can make it through, if you believe that you can get better, then you will. There was once a time that Kobe Bryant was alive, and there were other teams that paid, how many, is 11 players? Or how many people are on the court at a time?
5 players. Oh, well, 10 player, 5-on-5.
5-on-5. Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
sorry. So they played 5 other players, millions of dollars to stop that man from scoring buckets. And he scored 100 points in a single freaking game. 81. Okay, fine.
81
Yeah,
points.
there you go. You know,
You're good. You're good.
He
For the
scored-
I'm your shield for the basketball world. You have to go through me to get to Chris. I'm not gonna let him do it. But yes, 81
Thank you.
points for sure. Yes. But
81 points in one game. Boos do not block dunks. You can become so freaking good at something that you are unstoppable.
Boos do not block dunks. That's crazy. I love that. I also love, it's so interesting. So many times in life, we're at the crossroads of destiny, is what I call it. Where, like you were saying, right? You can have a mother saying, listen, honey, the world is going to try and stop you. And you can either go two ways with that. You can be sad and ask, why? Like, what's the deal? Why would they do that? Why can't I just be like everyone else? Why can't I be normal? Why do they have to do this? Right? Or when she says the world is going to try and stop you, on the other side of the coin, say, well, listen, bring it on. Bring it on. The world's going to try and stop me. Challenge accepted. Challenge accepted. And it's so interesting. David Goggins talks about this in his first book. It's called Taking Souls. Right? It's kind of dark. Right? He learned this one in Hell Week. And it's basically creating an enemy in your mind. And not necessarily like letting that person know, like letting the thing know, but it's creating that mental edge, that chip on your shoulder. It's like, man, they're trying to keep me down. The system's trying to keep me down, right? I'm going to rise above it. I'm going to be the outlier. I'm going to be the one that comes back and inspires more and bring more people with me. I'm going to be the leader. I'm not going to let fear guide my world. A great leader, he goes anyway, right? He's courageous. And it's one of those things where life is so much. I mean, it's so much. It's like 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react. It's all about how you look at it. And I think we did a whole podcast on, reframing and just putting yourself in the right frame of mind. I mean, it's unbelievable. Honestly, out of everything we teach, if you have the ability to like reframe things, that might be one of like top 3 goated. Okay. And one of those things that people need to learn is how to reframe. What would be this number 5's reframe? People like me don't get rich. Maybe that's something that you have in your mind. What's the reframe for this one, Chris?
I think a good reframe for this is people like me don't get rich. What I do, and I use an expletive, so I'm just going to say F. Whenever I think that this is for other people, I just say F that. In my own say, I'll say it out loud, like F that. Wealth doesn't ask permission. It asks for direction. If you want to be wealthy in life, you're not going to sit there and ask other people, can I be wealthy? Can I have this? No, you're going to ask, what do I need to do to get there? What direction do I need to start walking in anything in life? Yoda Masashi once said, once you see the way broadly, you see it in all things. This is true for wealth. This is true for your fitness. This is true for your life. This is true for your relationship. Don't ask for permission. Ask for, what do I need to do to get there? How do I get there? What direction do I need to walk? So in that, I think the most important thing from all of these is that we need to challenge our own internal narratives. And I think the best way to do that is to start with why, or more importantly, with these things when they come up in your brain. First off, you have to have the mental fortitude or the ability to even notice that you told yourself a story. Maybe you bought something. You're like, oh, well, I'm just bad with money. Went to Target and I went inside there to grab one thing, came out with a whole shopping cart. I'm just bad with money. Okay, it is what it is. And you gave yourself this mental out. Ask yourself, whose voice is that? Is that mom's voice? When you used to go to Target and she would say, hey, don't tell dad about this. We're just going to sneak it in under the wire. It's totally fine. We just won't put this on the budget tracker. It's totally good. Is it dad's voice? Is it grandma's voice? Whose voice is it? And then more importantly, is that voice serving you today? You can start small. Start with saving $5 a week. Journal about your money beliefs. Talk with someone you trust to see, are these beliefs, are the things that you hold as true? Because those are the scariest beliefs to me. The beliefs that you don't even begin to question. Because if you go through your whole life believing one thing, just to find out way later in life that you were wrong, you can do what we at the Five Guys try to say, is say, wow, thank God I learned at this age that I was wrong and now I can change it. Rather than do what majority of people do. And they go, no, I couldn't have been wrong for all those years, so you must be wrong. The objective truth must be wrong. Rather than me, my subjective truth being wrong. The only thing that is true is divine truth. And we don't have access to that information.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Well, we are coming to the end of our episode today. So if you did enjoy it, which I think you did, I might be assuming too much, right? My mom always said, don't assume anything. What's the first three letters of assume? But she's funny lady. But if you did enjoy it, please feel free to share it with someone who you believe could get something out of this episode. And if you did like it, give it a like. If you're not already following, what are we doing here, boys? What are we doing, boys and girls? Chris, any final thoughts before we end today's episode?
Of course, we always have an action step because entertainment, information without action is just entertainment. Got it on almost a second try.
That works.
Action step for this week. Write down the biggest money stories you've believed that have held you back. And then write down a truth for that. What do you believe is actually true? And truth is hard. So what do you believe? Is it actually serving you? It's going to take some mental information. It's going to take actually noticing yourself and knowing yourself to see what things are holding you back and then have the fortitude to actually question that. But until then, I hope you have a great week. We'll see you on Friday on Fi Friday Feedback. I'm Chris. He's Dom. We're the Fi Guys. Later.
Peace.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the hosts and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.